There are many things that I've adopted into my arsenal of hobbies and habits over the years that have contributed to the improvement of my life. You have the stereotypical self-help life hacks, the ferocious focus techniques, the laborious lifting of weights, but buried deeply past all of these superficial skills lies an often overlooked skill that trumps them all based on how it's impacted my life, because it has contributed to the advancement of every single one of my capabilities. And that skill is becoming a more effective communicator to others and myself. Let me paint a picture for you. It's 2012. I'm a sophomore in high school, generic memes that have text on the top and bottom are still a thing, and I just broke my Temple Run high score on my iPod Touch. My personality is non-existent, my self-awareness is laughable, and I was failing English class. Yes, English class. And up until that point, I had yet to have a real job. Most of my days consisted of going over to my friend Nick's house to play Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, but this particular day was a little different. As we heard the intercom bell placed on the small table in between his two couches in the attic ring, we both looked at each other with a wide grin, because we knew that that meant dinner was ready. We quickly rushed downstairs, and as we got closer, the smell of the pizza and wings hit our nostrils like we just passed by a busy restaurant. As we loaded up our plates, ready to stuff our faces and rush back upstairs to play our next multiplayer match, we were stopped by Nick's mom. She'd always been the type of mom to keep it real with us. She was cool and she wasn't strict, but she would always call us out on our bullshit. "Enjoy it while you can," she said, "because pretty soon you're going to be thrust into the real world and you'll have to get a job and pay taxes and have real responsibilities." Being the young teenager that I was at the time, her statement flew by me without even grazing me. I knew what she was saying was the truth, but I disregarded it. Little did I know that this would be the year that part of that statement would start to materialize into reality. When summer came and I increased my playtime on my Xbox 360 from 4 hours to 8 hours, my parents thought it was the right time for me to finally get a job and do something of value. My initial thought was, but I'm so young, where do I even begin? Luckily, they had just the right fit for me. Since my dad was a real estate agent, he knew the owners of many different buildings around my neighborhood, including restaurants. He told me he found a possible opportunity for me to be a cleaning boy at a sub shop, but they wanted to give me an interview first. As I arrived for the interview, I felt more unprepared than I did before my weekly algebra quiz that I never studied for. With each question they asked me, I had a difficult time producing more than a one-word answer. My brain didn't really work that way. I wasn't witty or sociable or into anything other than my relationship that I had with my gun attachments in Call of Duty. And this is the first time where I got hit with the realization that my communication skills were severely lacking. Did this story cause you to feel something, or maybe even see something? What I did here was use my words to communicate a story that would flow into your mind as vividly as possible. Perhaps this story made you feel certain emotions and bring up past memories that you had since forgotten. And the reason that I did this was to emphasize just how important words are. The right set of words can put you in a temporary state of enchantment. Words can entice you, arouse you, and hypnotize you, or they can just as effectively destroy you. Words are how we communicate an idea, or how we are feeling in a given moment, and they are one of the driving forces for how people view you. Without an expansive vocabulary, it's far less likely that you will reach accurate conclusions about other people, but maybe even more importantly, yourself. Through this YouTube channel, I have had to inevitably improve my writing ability. And from a business perspective, that's been extremely beneficial. My scripts are more engaging, and therefore people watch for longer, which leads to the audience retention being higher on average, and YouTube pushes out my videos to more people because of that. It's also allowed me to come off as more educated and trustworthy, which consequently makes me more confident and leads to greater opportunities in life. But the most neglected benefit of strengthening your ability to more concisely communicate your ideas is the effect that it has on your self-awareness. I hadn't understood this until recently, but this almost daily task of writing these scripts for over 4 years now has been the most important catalyst to developing my self-awareness. And that is for 2 reasons. The first being that this act of writing that I dive into consistently is almost like a more advanced journaling technique. My videos start out with a very simple idea that usually comes to me out of nowhere. I'll then take note of it and mock up a possible title. And from that title, I'll just start writing. I'll have a general idea of what I want to express, but I am often extremely surprised with what ends up being typed through my keyboard. I'm experiencing the same phenomenon right now as I press each button. And as I go through the script, I'm able to solve problems and come to conclusions that weren't previously available to me when I was trying to solve them in my head. I'll have these moments when I'm rereading my scripts where I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I get it now. Good job, Cole. And the second reason being that I now have most of the words that I need to draw a more accurate picture of who I am, what I want, and what I need. Really think about this. When you lack the ability to communicate ideas, concepts, or feelings to others, you most likely have yet to develop that skill within yourself. It's much more difficult to figure out your interests or why you do something or act a certain way if you're functioning off a hunch or feeling rather than a concrete set of words. When you can take those hazy explanations you try to deduce from your inner psyche and articulate them in a way that clears up the fog surrounding them, your definition of yourself becomes more precise. And you can more easily come to the point of view that is necessary for you to get to that precision. Because a lot of the time, ideas and hunches that we have are put into words by ourselves or others, but it takes a certain set of words to get those ideas and hunches to really click within us. It's why you can watch 100 self-help videos on the same topic, but on the 101st video, due to the way it was communicated, it finally hits you and makes sense. And getting to that clicking point in yourself or others becomes much more likely if you expand your communication capability. With all of this being said, the question of how arises. Well, I've already shared with you one of my most effective tactics, which is writing. Writing consistently in almost any manner forces your brain to look for ways to crystallize your thoughts on paper or on a screen. And even if you aren't a YouTuber or you don't plan on becoming one, you can still use the technique that I've briefly outlined here. Think of an idea or an explanation that you want to more cohesively express to yourself or others. This could be why you love your significant other, why you always get angry when someone mentions your insecurities, or you can literally just write about a heavily bitten apple. Then generate a title for it and just start writing. In this process, the inexplicable happens, where you just begin to dig up certain subconscious words and feelings towards these things that were previously hidden to you. And you need to do this on a consistent basis, at least once a week, but I honestly would do more than that. Along with this writing technique, I suggest that you also do what is called a brain dump, which is something that I do pretty often. This is when you simply just write whatever comes to your mind. Whatever immediate thought you have, just write it down. You'll be surprised at what you dig up, and you might be surprised how efficacious it is at quieting the incessant chatter that goes on in your head 24/7. This balance of both focused and unfocused writing, I believe, is the best approach to improving your communication effectiveness. And you're only half done here. Once you've finished your work, find a way to say it out loud. Because there's a lot of great writers out there, but they're just terrible at speaking in real life when they have to communicate verbally. And I'm sure you probably don't want that. You can say it to yourself alone, or you can read it out loud to others if you want active feedback or questions on your writing. Of course, just writing and speaking out loud won't ensure that you're going to be producing more words for you to express what you want to express. You also need to pair that with the right consumption of reading material. So I personally have never read a book on how to become a better writer in my life. All of my expertise, if we can even call it that, came from the act of writing itself and through reading books that challenged my comprehension skills. When I became more interested in viewing the world through a different lens, I inevitably became more interested in philosophy. I'm not sure if you've ever read philosophy, but that shit is hard to comprehend sometimes. But that's a good thing because it pushes you to come to a better understanding of things with a more robust set of words. Each philosopher you read has their own unique style of presenting things, and I strongly encourage you to read as many different philosophers as you can. Right now I'm in the middle of reading The Myth of Sisyphus, which is a book written by a French philosopher, Albert Camus, in the, I believe, 20th century. But I'm going to leave a link to this book as well as other philosophy books that I recommend based on your skill level in the description below. But I do not recommend that you only read philosophy. While philosophy can be great for opening up and reprogramming your brain's word network, reading fiction can just as powerfully change your perspective on life. Not nonfiction, fiction. Don't get me wrong, nonfiction self-help books, they do have their place, and they're great for when you want to learn something unrelated to what I'm talking about here, but no other genre of literature can so vividly paint and colorize words into physical form. When you read good fiction, for a brief period of time, you are transported into the world of that book. The words of fiction books can move you and elicit emotions like no other genre can, because fiction books tell stories. And stories, not facts or tips or guides, are what really make an impact on us. And I definitely felt that way reading the most recent fiction book that I just finished, which was Zorba the Greek. Man, all I can say about this book is wow. It almost felt like a self-help fiction book, if that's even possible. I mean, a lot of fiction books do help you. It's a bit of a tougher read if you are still a teenager, but I believe this is just an absolute must for everybody, and this really impacted my storytelling capabilities. And I'll leave that book along with my other favorite fiction books in the description as well. Thank you very much to all my patrons on this channel on Patreon. If you don't know what this is, it's a platform separate from YouTube where I'm putting out exclusive videos and podcasts, and you can talk to me one-on-one over the phone on there. If you want to check that out, link is in the description. Links in the description, a lot of links in the freaking description. I'm gonna go now. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope that it moved you and you enjoyed it.